Listeners, welcome to Ideas, Innovative Dialogues in Educational Approaches and Scholarship podcast series in the Research Hub at the Faculty of Education, Simon Fraser University. This is Shaila and I'm your host. I would like to acknowledge that all Ideas podcasts are recorded at Simon Fraser University, whose three campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam nations. Listeners, we are very happy to welcome Chunhong Liu with us today. Here is a little bio of Chunhong. Chunhong Liu is a PhD candidate in Languages, Cultures, and Literacies at the Faculty of Education, Simon Fraser University. His research sits at the intersection of affect, subjectivity, and discourses in English language education. He has published over 20 articles in journals such as Journal of Second Language Writing, Assessing Writing, Language Teaching, English for Specific Purposes, and System. He is currently serving as an editorial board member for Assessing Writing and is co-editor of SFU Educational Review. He is also co-editing special issues for Journal of Education, Language, and Ideology with Dr. Angel Lin and International Review of Applied Linguistics in Language Teaching with Dr. Angel Lin and Dr. Sander Dovchin. His recent publication explores biology students' scientific reasoning through thematic pattern analysis, which is featured in Translanguaging and Transsemiotising YouTube channel. We have shared Chunhong's ResearchGate and Google Scholar profile links and the TLTS YouTube channel link on our webpage for you to explore his extensive work. Hello, Chunhong. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Shaina. Thank you so much for the invitation.
It's great to have you with us. And Chunhong, you are such a well-published scholar, and it only makes sense that we learn about your thoughts and insights on academic publishing and your experiences. My first question for you is, what is academic publishing in your field?
Thank you for this question. So my field in general is educational linguistics. And in this field, academic publishing is often seen as the main gateway to scholarly legitimacy. And I think that's true across many disciplines. So it's how we demonstrate our research abilities, share our findings, and show that we belong in the academic community. But we should know that publishing is not just a neutral process of sharing knowledge. It's also a deeply social and political practice. While it's often framed as a merit-based system, like the more you publish, the more access or reputation you could get about your research. But in reality, access to publication is shaped by a range of factors like geopolitical power, language privilege, and institutional hierarchies. For example, where you are based, what language you write in, and even how closely your work aligns with dominant academic norms. All these factors will influence how your research is received. In this sense, academic publishing isn't just about contributing knowledge. It's about navigating a complex system of recognition and exclusion. And that's something I try to highlight in my own research, that publishing is not only about ideas, but also about who gets to be heard and whose knowledge counts.
Thank you so much, Chunhong, for your insight. And you raised such you raise such important points that academic publishing is not just about sharing ideas. It's a very complex system of navigating what we are part of, navigating academia. And as for new students and scholars, it is very challenging. I think what you said also leads to our second question. And it was you who suggested that we name this episode, the title of this episode, as Rethinking and Unthinking Academic Publishing, which is fascinating. Thank you so much for suggesting this topic. So I would like to know more about what do you mean by rethinking and unthinking academic publishing?
So when I talk about unthinking academic publishing, I mean stepping back and questioning the assumptions we have come to take for granted. So we always see publishing as a neutral, objective evaluation of our own scholarship, like it's the way we share knowledge or prove the value of our research. But in reality, it's political, and it's not the only or even the fairest standard for academic evaluation. It's a process shaped by many factors, mostly geopolitics, and it is also influenced by how we voice our writing, how we see our research, our knowledge. So actually in Chinese, there is a term called 祛魅, so which is a bit like the idea of disenchantment. It means we need to strip away the idealized images or illusions we project onto something. And I think that's exactly many of us need to do when we think about academic publishing. So there is so much pressure and so many expectations tied to it. It's often seen as a ticket to success or recognition. But when we pause and look closer, we can start to see how much of that is constructed and how it can actually cause harm or create anxiety, especially for many of us who feel like outsiders in the system. So, in this sense, to unthink academic publishing is to demystify it, to ask ourselves, what does it matter so much to us? Who gets to define what counts as legitimate knowledge? Why are Western norms, English fluency, and specific journal reputations treated as the gold standard? And from there, we can begin to rethink academic publishing, to rethink it not as a single path, but as something that can take many forms. It's about imagining other possibilities. For example, publishing in open access journals, engaging in public scholarship, writing in our own voice, or contributing to our local communities through research. Being a scholar doesn't have to mean chasing impact factors. It can also mean creating knowledge that is ethical, inclusive, and meaningful to the people we care about.
Well, that's really fascinating and critical at the same time. Thank you so much for sharing. And I really appreciate your introducing us with the Chinese concept of disenchantment, and then how we project very high expectations on ideologies and beliefs onto something. So what you're suggesting is that we question ourselves as well. We question our own values and beliefs, and probably build new values and beliefs built on new understanding and shared and collective understanding as well. This is really important. Thank you so much for your insight on this. But that also leads to my next question, which is what you said is very important. We must do. But how can grad students or emerging researchers who are participants in Western knowledge production system and who also need to establish themselves as researchers, right? As researchers and scholars. So how can they challenge the dominant narrative and still be able to publish?
Yes, I know what you mean by challenge, and it's actually a reality, and it's something that emerging scholars like us we cannot avoid. And it's a kind of risk. And we should know that many of us have to engage in this kind of risky negotiation. But as emerging scholars, we do need visibility. We need that symbolic capital to survive and grow in academia. But I really believe it's also possible to do both, to meet some of the expectations of the system while also pushing back against its exclusionary norms. And one way to do that is by being intentional about how we write. Our writing can reflect our own epistemologies, values, and cultural positioning. So publishing doesn't have to mean chasing only high impact factor journals. It can also mean contributing knowledge that feels ethical, grounded, and relevant to our communities. We also have to be realistic. Systemic change takes time, and there is no chance for us to challenge the whole system. But we should know that there is still power in how we practice scholarship every day. It's in the choices we make about where we publish, who we cite, how we support each other, and how we define impact on our own terms. And maybe most importantly, in my idea, we need to move from abstract calls for change to real concrete actions. We can start from ourselves. It's never enough to just talk about decolonizing academia. We have to embed these principles in what we actually do, in how we write, how we mentor, how we publish. So that's where meaningful changes start. It can start from our own practices.
Wow, that's very deep and really wonderful thoughts. And I really like that you mentioned that it's one thing to have an ideology or value or epistemology, but it's another thing to practice it. And how we practice our scholarship, our philosophy, it's embodied, and it's so much important that we do this very important and meaningful task. And I also like that you mentioned about the importance of supporting each other, of creating an empathetic and sharing community, to be there for each other. And I think that's so much missing in this society, in today's world. So I have a follow-up question to what you said, that it's important to practice meaningful research, and it's also important that we don't just talk about decolonization, but we take critical, concrete steps. So, sometimes, and this is kind of a follow-up question to what you just said, and this is a question that I often wonder. So I would just like to have your insights on this as well. So there are times when some research ideas or topical theories or methodology, they enjoy more prominence and traction than others. And it can be difficult for grad students to choose between a topic that already garners a lot of attention and a topic that is relatively new or sensitive or may attract unpopular opinions. Now, it could be seen as I don't know if this is a right word to describe this, but let's say it could be seen as a populist trend in academia. So my question to you is, how do graduate students who are already precarious players in the system choose and do things wisely?
Yeah, I actually had this difficult decision to make in my first year at SFU. I need to decide whether I want to pursue a topic that was already popular in the field, or I I choose a topic that I personally found more meaningful. And this decision is for my doctoral research project. So at that time, it was a hard time because I need to I need to take a side. But till this day, I feel like they are not they are two sides of the same coin. But the beauty of academic journey is that we can always flip the coin again. So we are not locked into one choice forever, right? So choosing a popular topic might help with visibility or publication, and that's completely valid. At the same time, working on something that truly matters to us can keep us motivated and connected to our values. So it's not about picking the right side once and for all, but about recognizing that our research journeys is always evolving. we can shift, adapt, and find balance depending on where we are and what we want and what we need in our academic career. And also, choosing a topic that's already getting attention doesn't mean you are compromising your values. And choosing a sensitive or less conventional topic doesn't mean it can be framed in a rigorous and compelling way. So there is no need to feel shame or insecurity about the kind of work we choose to do. And for emerging scholars, we are constantly learning how to navigate the system. We, we need to understand the expectations while slowly expand the boundaries of what counts as legitimate research. What matters most is that we are honest with ourselves about why we choose certain topics and who we are writing for. And this confidence to take intellectual risks grows over time, and we don't need to rush the process.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much again. This is a learning experience for me having this conversation with you. So I can't thank you enough for accepting our invitation. And I think with this insight, you have addressed the dilemma that many of us are facing, and then that it's a constant negotiation. It's a continuous negotiation with ourselves, and that it's an evolving process. I think that's a very meaningful and inspiring way to look at it. Now, it's almost time to wrap up, so I'll ask my last question to you, and I cannot let you go without answering this question, is that you are a widely published student researcher. So, what are your suggestions on writing and publishing for graduate students?
So my first suggestion is that we need to treat writing as part of our thinking process. Like what I have demonstrated in my recent research about thematic patterns, writing is not just a task we do, but it's a way to present and also to help us make more sense of our cognitive process, like the process we make sense of our research, our values and principles. And for academic publishing, writing is especially important because we write as we research, and writing is where our ideas really take start to take shape. So it's where our voice emerges. So we need to give ourselves time to reflect on what we believe, what we want to say, and why it matters to us and to our communities. It's not just about communicating findings, it's about making sense of them and making them meaningful. And the second suggestion is that we need to try not to get too caught up in chasing metrics. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking only high impact journals count, or these commonly viewed prestigious journals like they are the only place for legitimate knowledge making. But honestly, some of the most meaningful work happens in spaces that align with our values and speak to the communities we care about. So we need to focus on publishing in journals that feel like a good fit for us. Quality and contribution are more important than quantity or reputation of journals. Third, we need to find our people. Academic publishing sometimes can feel really isolating, especially when we are just starting out our academic career. But it doesn't have to be a lonely journey. We can share our drafts, ask for feedback, and celebrate the small milestones together with our peers and mentors. So we need to build a supportive community and to see ourselves as legitimate participants in the academic discourse community. And finally, we need to remember that publishing is just one part of being a scholar. Publication matters, but we should also see the importance of teaching, mentoring, organizing events, or other academic activities. And our academic identity is made up of all the way we contribute the to the people we care. It's not just the number of articles on our CV or records. So we need to give ourselves permission to grow as a whole scholar, not just a code publishing machine.
Wow, this is such a holistic view on academia, on academics, scholarship, and publication. You talked about publishing, caring for others, mentoring, meaningful practices. So, yeah, I think, yes, it's just such a holistic view of what we can do being in academia. And this is so meaningful. Um, Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. Your thoughts are fascinating and they're inspiring. I have learned a lot. And yeah, right. I just want to thank you again for participating and for sharing these wonderful ideas with our audience.
Thank you so much for your time.
Listeners, this has been an intriguing and very meaningful conversation, and I have learned so much. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Thank you so much again for always staying with ideas and supporting ideas. Please stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you all.